Hello and welcome to the United Racing League. We are here for the final round of the Division 4 race here at Interlagos, the Autódromo José Carlos Pache circuit in the city of Sao Paulo in Brazil. Alongside me is Tommy, who's been with me on a few other occasions over the course of the season. Tommy, how are you tonight?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. And we've got to the end of the season now with the championship pretty much wrapped up, to be honest. There's just a few scraps up for grabs, and there'll be some drivers out there who'll be looking to go out for the race win by the end of tonight.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many drivers we've got. We've got 16, I believe. Barati's already won the championship, so I wouldn't expect anything. I'd expect him to take a little bit more risk because he doesn't have to worry about winning the championship.
So Barati has already wrapped up the title with a couple of races to spare. We were meant to be having one more round in Mexico after this, but the United Racing League have decided to cut the season one round earlier, and you can't really complain about Barati's performances so far this season, Tommy. He's been in the top 8 in every single race, including 3 race wins in Bahrain, Britain and Canada. He has a 67-point lead, which could be higher by the end of this round, depending on how tonight's race goes. Drivers just doing their last-minute setups, as they are under Part Ferme rules, so once they leave the garages, that'll be their race setups as well. As you can see, an Alfa Romeo making his way out onto the circuit. That is Nathan, who's in the car.
Who's in the McLaren? Because sorry, but my screen doesn't display a name for them.
Right, so in the McLaren we've got Flash F111, and the other one is Ramletic.
Yeah, it's not displaying Flash's name for me.
Okay. Well, Nathan is just on his outlap at the moment, so he's just taking the opportunity to acclimatise to the racetrack. We hope to see some really close lap times. It is just a one session. Oh, he spins coming out of what looks like turn 8, I believe, and now he's pointing them wrong. We've got to be careful not to be going in the wrong direction too much, otherwise he can be disqualified from qualifying, and that allows the Williams of what looks like Leocat, is it? No, it's Mr. BT. He'll continue on, and he'll begin his first flying lap, whilst the others start to make their way around the circuit and begin their first time laps. We can see the 2 racing points and the Mercedes coming out of the pit lane, which leaves the 2 AlphaTauris still in the pits. Tesla's been disqualified from the session for blocking the pit lane, so he'll be starting the race from the back of the grid. Here's Mr. BT then, starting his final flying lap, coming through turn 3, and it's the Cida de Lago, I think it's called. Turn 4 that is. Either way, he's going through there now, and up through turn 5.
You got a beautiful exit there.
And up the hill of turn 6. Very nicely done, actually, and can he nail the apex of 7? Very, very well, actually. And then here's turn 8, just probably turning a little bit too early there, did Mr. BT, but got it hooked up nicely for 9 and 10. And then we've got 12 coming up. Young cow it is. And over the line he comes. It'll be a 1 minute 6.8. That puts him to the top of the leaderboard for the time being at least. We've got Ferrari coming over the line as well. That is Muriel. But he says that time invalidated, so we'll come away from him. And we've got Flash coming over the line on a 1 minute 7.8 on the medium compound, followed by the Mercedes, that is BQ, who's just started. I think he's had his lap time invalidated actually on that run. And so Pastor over the line for 1 minute 7.2, and then it's the Renault Cross Nation on 1 minute 7.3, and the next driver over the line is Leocat, who should go to the top of the leaderboard on this run here, and he does so. 1 minute 6.6 for him.
I'm just on board with Pelaguay right now. He is on the medium, so I wouldn't expect him to go anywhere near the top. Is he pitting? No, he's just taking the shortest run to the line. I've noticed that some of the drivers aren't taking the shortest run to the line, but maybe that's just to set up their lap. Maybe they're going for 2 lap times because maybe one of their lap times have been invalidated.
It's Muriel in the Ferrari is next up. There's also a racing point who's coming through. Ray's posted a 1 minute 7.0 on his latest lap. And we've got Ismail who will be coming over the line next. And it's going to be a 1 minute 7.0. Goes in front of Bratti into 4th position. BQ coming back into the pit lane. Genu is on a lap as well. We've got Rumnitic crossing over the line in the McLaren. It's a 1 minute 7.2. Goes behind Bratti. And looking at Genu, who'll be coming out of Young Cow next. Cross Nation, I'm not sure if he's on a fast lap at the moment. No, he's not, so we'll go back to Genu. He's aiming for a strong finish to the season. What can he produce on this lap? It's a 1 minute 6.8. That puts him 3rd ahead of Ray.
Learcat seems to have he seemed to have a strong end to the season so far, because he had a 1st, a 3rd, and a 1st. So yeah, that seems to be very strong from him, and he's looking well. I think he is going to keep that 2nd place because Halaquenti is not in this race.
So Halaquendi's absence means that Learcat is guaranteed 2nd place in the Drivers' Championship to Bratti. Halaquendi will be 3rd, but the battle for 4th is still on at the moment because Kowalski, who it looks to be is not racing tonight, his 4th place is very much under threat. And with Brian actually not taking part, Brian is taking part in the AlphaTauri. A point for Brian would be enough, but if Genu or Cross Nation can finish on the podium, or even either of those two could finish on the podium, Brian may not be able to finish 4th. It could be either Genu or Cross Nation getting that 4th position.
Yeah. What I've seemed to notice with Learcat recently is that he hasn't had the outright pace in the races, but he's played his cards well, and like it was last week at Japan, he didn't really seem to have the outright pace over Sassy Pickle, as Sassy Pickle did make a move on him, but he didn't make any mistakes, he didn't get a penalty like Sassy Pickle did, and that ultimately won him the race.
Brian is on a flying lap at the moment in the AlphaTauri. I mean, it's a strange one with Brian actually. He has competed in every single race, but his highest finish has been a 4th place, which he has achieved twice in Azerbaijan and last time out in Japan. He hasn't finished any higher than that, but his level of consistency have put him in the frame of a top 4 overall finish in the standings. So Brian opening the DRS now, taking the shorter route to the line, and it's going to be a 1 minute 7.2, which puts him 8th fastest, 0.02 of a second behind Ramnitic in 7th place. We've got Liam in the Ferrari. He'll be looking to end his season rather nicely. He has competed 4 times this season. He's only finished in the points once, which came at Monza. He'll be hoping to add to that tally in the last race of the campaign. He is on a flying lap though, but he's not representative, so we'll come away from him. And Buku looking to get his first lap on the board. We do expect him to be in the range of perhaps the top 5. And looking to see if there's anyone improving on lap times. Learcat is going on another run. Nathan doing nicely actually in 4th place in the Alfa Romeo. What about Brian? Is he on a fast lap? The answer is no. Pastor is in the Red Bull. Cross Nation is not.
Buku's lost it and he's spun out.
Yeah,
and he's hit the wall, but there's no damage.
Yeah, we just captured that at the right time actually. Buku losing it on the run down before Yunsao, and he's had that lap time ruined. He may have to go around and do another lap again, or decide to just come back into the pit lane and put on another set of boots. And Nathan's now been given a grid penalty for coming together with Liam. Not sure what all that is about, but I don't know if you picked on that one, Tommy, but that just came right out of the blue.
No, I haven't. It's probably because of someone not getting out of the way of another car, because that does tend to happen in league racing. I have experienced it for myself in league racing and seen it in some other league racing, so it can be quite annoying. So I would put that down to most likely being that.
Okay. Well, wherever Nathan qualifies, he'll go back 5 places on the grid. I'm looking to see whether Pellegrini can find any improvement on this. Like these cars, he's having to sort of find his way past. He's completely backed out of it, as he knows his lap time is completely ruined by the McLaren and the Williams. I'm not sure what the stewards will make of that. I don't think there's an awful lot they can do when it comes to qualifying. Zamor, 13th fastest. Liam he's lost it. He's parked out on circuit. I'm not sure whether he's had an incident with someone or he's lost it all by himself. Just riding on the board with Leocat now, and Liam has lost it in the barrier, so that's his session over. Tesla also not going for a lap time right now. So I don't know whether drivers are just not taking qualifying that seriously and just focusing more on the race. It is expected to be a one... Sorry, go on then, Tommy.
Well, I was thinking with Nathan, because he's got a 5-place grid penalty, if that puts him outside the top 10, because of the rules, he will still have to start on the qualifying tyre, I believe.
That's true, yes. So even if Nathan does qualify within the top 10, regardless of where he goes back on the grid, he does still have to start the race on the same set of tyres as he's set his fastest lap time on. The only way that can change is he gets pushed out of the top 10 by the other drivers. Zamor going 10 fastest on a 1 minute 7.1. Runatic improving his time to a 1 minute 6.9. So we should be expecting a low 1 minute 6 for pole position here. At the moment, Leocat's posted the fastest time. That is a 1 minute 6.6. Brati second, less than 0.04 of a second adrift of the Williams driver. Well,
I've seen there's 3 DNSs for Leocat in this championship, and 1 12th, and if he 12th place, that is, and that's obviously given Barati quite a big of advantage. But obviously I wasn't watching or commentating for the first few races, but could you imagine if Leocat had been here for the few races and maybe been a bit more consistent, what a championship fight we may have had.
Yeah, Israel just crossing over, Ismail, I should say, crossing over the line to go 6th fastest on a 1 minute 6.8. But I do perfectly agree with what you're saying there, Tommy, because Leocat, had he been in for the races that he missed, he would most certainly have been in the title fight had he been going for victories more often. But it is what it is at the end of the day. Brian is on a flying lap in the AlphaTauri. He's got a McLaren behind him. That's probably Flash, who's had his lap time invalidated, actually, so Brian shouldn't need to worry about what's going on behind. He just needs to watch what's going on ahead of him. There is a racing point who should be out of range from him of potentially impeding his time. Brian's is 100th up from his previous best by this point of the lap, so he could very much be in the frame of improving his time here. He is, in fact, going into the pit lanes. Yeah, so that's his lap done there. Ray, I think, has just improved his time on a 1 minute 6.9. He goes 7th with that lap. Cross Nation, he's looking to improve on 12th. Disappointing that from what he has set, but we are expecting to be very much in the 1 minute 6s here, and it is a 1 minute 6.8. That puts him 7th fastest. That's more like it there from the Renault pilot.
I'm just on board with Buku because obviously I spotted that he messed up on his previous lap. I don't know what his outright pace is because in the few races he's been in, I don't believe I've been commentating with you, but he seemed to be doing pretty well on his lap where he messed up. So I should say he'd be in that ballpark of the top 10, but I don't think he will get any. I don't think he'll get anywhere near the top 4, I'd say.
Well, BQ's
and I've just noticed that Pasta and Genoa have posted the exact same lap time.
Of course, and Genoa will have posted that lap time before Pastor, hence why he's kept hold of 5th place. Nathan has also improved to 4th fastest in the other Alfa Romeo. It's a 1 minute 6.7. And Buku, who's coming through Yunsao now, looking to post his first time on the board. Where is he going to end up? Ideally, he would want to, but he's gone into the pits again.
Yeah, I don't know why that is.
Yeah, I don't know
I'd
why.
like to comment on that thing about being the person to set the lap time first. Even though that is a rule in F1, I don't think it is actually a thing in this game. I think it's just random because I have actually had experienced it for a few times in this game in my own career mode and in other places, and it hasn't been the person who set it first. So I am not. It might be, but in my personal experience, it hasn't been like that.
Well, either way, I suppose it's only a 1,000th difference, really, or to the nearest 1,000th of a second. Anyway, Leocat pushing ever so hard on his latest lap. It's coming through turn 11. This is 12 and 13 next up for him. Turns the car in nicely. He's nearly a 10th up from before. Actually gets a kick of oversteer on the exit. And now he's looking to go through the last couple of kinks before the line. DRS open. on Learcat's car, and he should go faster than before. It's a 1 minute 6.5, and he extends his margin over Bratti.
He was definitely pushing on that lap. I reckon it was more time in there for him because he made a few mistakes coming out of turn 11, I believe, and the last proper corner of turn 13. Where obviously the famous Lewis Hamilton is that Glock moment happened, but yeah, there's definitely a few tenths in there because that mistake on the turn 13 would have affected his run all the way down to the line.
Looking at Flash at the moment, whose best time so far is a 1 minute 7.5. He was over a tenth quicker in sector 1 than before, so we should see a much bigger improvement. Less than 2.5 minutes to go, so one last opportunity for those who are stuck in the pits to go out there for one last attempt to improve their time and position, and then we'll have an idea as to who will be starting at the front of the grid. Flash nearly 4 tenths up from his previous best lap, so he's probably on course to be in the realms between Ramnitic and Zamor, but we'll see what his time will be like when he crosses over the line now. He should aim for 1 minute 6 here. It's a 1 minute 7.1, so it was right from before in terms of slotting in between Ramnitic and Zamor. He goes 11th fastest.
I was on board with him, and it didn't look anything, particularly wrong with his lap or anything. I just don't think he has the outright pace as much as it isn't nice to say. I just think he looked very smooth, but he just didn't look like he was really throwing it into any of the corners or really committing. I think he was just trying to be as smooth as possible, which does work and has its benefits, but it also has its drawbacks because you're not really extracting the most out of the car at all times if you're being trying to be as smooth and trying to be as smooth isn't the correct term to use, but being cautious, I believe, would be the better word, because he doesn't want to make any mistakes and he just wants to put a decent lap in.
Yeah, Zamor getting a kick of oversteer coming out of turn 11 there, pushing ever so hard. He's still an 100th up from his previous best time, so he could still go back in front of Flash if he finds enough.
He's backed off.
Yeah, he's backed off on this occasion, so he will not be improving his time and position. Flash is coming round. He's backed off on this run because his lap's been invalidated. He'll be back in the pits. So we've just seen that Pastor as well, actually improving his time by 5 thousandths of a second. He goes up to 5th ahead of Genoa now, so those two no longer have identical lap times. Bratti will be looking to improve on his lap to take pole position away from Learcat. He needs to find a couple of tenths on this run here.
Bratti is really laggy on my screen, so I can't really tell where he is on the lap, but he's around a tenth and a half behind, and I think he's made a mistake. Yeah, he's left the session. He's disconnected, I believe.
Hopefully we'll still see him back in time for the race. He won't need to worry too much about the situation in the championship. He has already clinched it a couple of rounds ago. But his teammate Ray is on a quicken lap before, actually, so he could make his way up the order a couple of places if he's lucky enough. He stays 9th, actually, does Ray, but he did improve his time.
It says for me that, I'm not sure if this is correct, it says for me here that Mr. BT and Leocat are both on their outlap, and I'm wondering why they would both go on outlaps so late in the session, which is it's a bit baffling to me because obviously it's the end of the session now.
Yeah, Pellegrini looking to improve on his 14th position. Bratti is now back in the lobby itself. Pellegrini getting a kick of oversteer as he got the power down out of 11th. What's his time in sector 2 like? Oh, he's much improved, actually, so he's nearly half a second up from his previous best lap. He has got an Alfa Romeo in front of him, but he may get a nice tow as he comes down the start-finish straight. He is behind Nathan. Can't tell if Nathan is on the lap of his own. He is, actually. He goes second fastest ahead of Bratti. Pellegrini improves massively, going up to 5th place on the 1 minute 6.7. So Nathan on the front row next to Learcat. I don't know if Learcat is on a fast lap. He's just got past a Mercedes, actually. So we know that Nathan won't be going into pole position. Mr. BT is on an improvement in the Williams as he comes into sector 2. Now he's half a tenth up from his previous best, but he has lost time in the second sector alone. He needs to find something drastic on this last attempt here to take pole position away from his teammate. It's 2 tenths that he needs to find. Over the line he goes, and it's no improvement for him. He stays 4th fastest. So Learcat is on pole position for the Brazilian Grand Prix with Nathan alongside him in the Alfa Romeo. Bratti's 3rd, Mr. BT in 4th, Ramatic an excellent 5th for him. Pellegrini, Pastor, Genu, Ismuriel, and Cross Nation rounding out the top 10. So Nathan, because because of that penalty he picked up, he'll start 7th place on the grid. So that will promote Bratti back up to 2nd on the grid.
Yeah, I've had another glitch with Bratti where it's not displaying his name, so forgive me if I do get confused on which driver it is. But yeah, it seems to be a very strong performance from Leacat again, and he seems to have good pace in qualifying. Maybe not quite as good as the race, but we'll see what he's got in stock this time. Yeah,
and Leacat on pole ahead of Bratti in 2nd place, Mr. BT 3rd, Romantic and Pellegrini will make up row. Also, Romantic is 4th with Pellegrini 5th and Pastor 6th alongside. Then it's Nathan who will line up 7th. Genu is 8th alongside on row 4. Is Muriel and Cross Nation on row 5. Ray and Brian on row 6 ahead of Flash and Samuel who make up row 7. Buku, the last of those who set a time. Liam and Tesla round off the grid. So we've got 36 laps where we'll conclude the Division 4 category. What do you think we'll see in terms of tyre strategies? Because all of those in the top 10 will have set their times on the soft compound. So it's a matter of those outside the top 10 in terms of what tyre strategy they're going to go on. Maybe they'll try something different in this.
I'm not entirely sure, but I believe it is actually, at least in career modes I've done and just other races, on 50% races, I believe it is actually a 2-stop around here.
It's actually a 1-stop as far as I know, but it wouldn't surprise me if other drivers try and do a 2-stopper. It depends how aggressive they are willing to go out on this circuit.
It does also depend on safety cars and virtual safety cars as well.
And just a few seconds away from the start of the formation lap as well. And the drivers will start off on their formation up now, so an opportunity to find out who is starting on whatever compound. So outside the top 10, we were discussing. And Brian, Flash, Zamor, Liam and Tesla are all starting on the mediums. The rest are on the soft compound.
Yeah, I do expect at least 1 or 2 safety cars here because judging by the previous races that I've co-commentated with you in this league, it hasn't been without incidents usually, and it is quite a difficult track to go without an incident, as it's not the widest and it's not the easiest to get around by any means.
So Leacat is looking to end the season on a high. He's already taken 2 race wins this season, Monza and last time out in Suzuka. He's finished in the top 3 in that period of the last 3 rounds. And if he can wrap it up with another victory here, that'll put himself in a good frame of mind for when we do get to F1 2021, which is released in 3 weeks' time.
Next month.
Yeah, it's 3 weeks' time next month, but a lot of leagues won't necessarily start as soon as the game is released. They want to give drivers a bit of time to practice and acclimatise to the new game first before any league racing begins.
So I know I'll be pre-ordering it.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of our drivers will be thinking that ahead, given all the new content involved. And there'll be a few other circuits, a few new circuits of which these drivers will be racing at, including Imola, Portimao and Jeddah. In the meantime, there is some racing to focus on here at Interlagos. 17 cars on the grid then. There is one of the Mercedes making up the last position on the grid. That will be Liam, or Tesla I should say. And then sooner or later this race will begin when the 5 red lights come on. One last time here, Interlagos, the 5 red lights come on. There'll be a glitch when they go out, and then a few seconds later the drivers will move off the line. We do sometimes get this in the United Racing League. It's lights out and away we go. Leacat gets off the line well, but Bratti's start was even better than the Williams driver, and Bratti leads into turn 1. with Learcat fighting back, who gets back into the lead by turn 2 now. So they go side by side to turn 3. He will have the edge as they come into Decida de Largo. It looks like Brati will have the inside line into there, but Learcat will not give up that position ever so easily. And Learcat goes to the outside. Brati takes the lead from Learcat. So Learcat has lost out at the start. There's Mr. BT going side by side with Pellegrini as they go into turn 6. And the two comes together. Pellegrini goes off and into the barrier. So Pellegrini spins into the barrier there, and Mr. BT got through without damage. Or did he get through without damage? I think he got away with it actually, but Pellegrini is most certainly at the back of the field through all that. So Brati, I think it's Buku who's in the lead, but that car is controlled by the AI, so Brati will catch up to it very, very soon.
Mr. BT's definitely got damage. He's understeering like an absolute boat.
I don't think he has actually, because there's no end plates of his car that have been ripped off in all of that. But Buku is leading, but his car will be caught up by the leaders once they cross over the start-finish line. So Brati with the new fastest lap, although that will come down a lot as the race goes on. Flash and Pastor are in the pits with damage, as is Liam.
Yeah, Brati just seemed to have a good launch. For me, he was lagging a little bit, so I didn't have the best view of it. But Pellegrini, I think, just got caught on the outside, and I don't think Mr. BT obviously intended to go into him, but I think he might have just understeered, or, well, he didn't actually look like that, because it looked like on the entrance to the corner where they're not even really turning, so maybe he just like locked a wheel, possibly, even though it's not really a corner, you should lock the wheel on, as the predicted pit stop strategy is flashing up on my screen over and over again, which is very odd. But it says it's a 2-stop for those soft tyre runners and a 1-stop for the mediums for me. Well, if you want to go straight onto the hards, but if you want to go onto the mediums, it will be, I believe, a 1-stop.
It depends how soon those tyres will fall away. You can just see Nathan
Hard, sorry, not mediums.
Yeah, so Brati is coming around to complete the second lap, technically in the lead, but Yuki is still there.
Mr. BT is going in the pits.
Yep, he's probably going to try a different strategy, actually. I don't think this will be for a change of a front wing, actually. I think he's going to try and go on the hard tyres, get some clean air, and go to the end of the race. The Alfa Romeo crew are out as well, and Nathan's in the pits and out of the race.
They are changing his front wing, I believe.
Yeah, so he must have had damage, actually, on that first lap then, has BT.
I did spot it. Like I said, he was on the, I think it's turn 12, he was understeering and he went off the track, and it didn't look like to affect him that much for the rest of the lap, but I think it might have just been an end plate, obviously, which does affect you at certain corners significantly more than others.
And through all this, Ramnatic is technically off into third place once he goes past Buku's controlled car that is being driven by the AI right now. As Brati lines Buku up, he'll go through. No problem there, as the car is ghosted. But Buku will lose second place as well to Learcat. And now we've got a real fight for the lead here. And Learcat will use the DRS to close in on the race leader. You can see a battle for the final podium spot between Genu and Ramnatic. And Genu gets past the McLaren, and he goes up into the final podium spot once he gets by Buku. We can see if there's any other tussling further behind. There's Mr. BT currently shown in 12th position. The Red Bulls came into the pits at the end of lap 1, both with damage. We have got 2 drivers out of the race already. They are Nathan and Liam.
Nathan not able to capitalise from his good qualifying, even though he did get a grid penalty, but I didn't really see what happened to him. But back to the Pellegrini incident, I just think he might have... there is a little bit of a... there's a bit of a thing with the physics on this game where if you take too much speed and you're next to a driver, it will just spew you off into a wall. It used to be called the sidepod glitch. It's definitely improved, but it's not completely gone away now, because you do actually have to make contact for it to happen, but sometimes the physics in this game can be very odd.
The drivers are coming up to the end of lap 4 now. Ramnatic looking to fight back on Genu. He's made a decent start actually as Ramnatic to avoid all the chaos, and now he's looking to get back into contention for a top 3 finish to round off the season. There's Cross Nation in 5th place, and there's also a move further behind between what looks like Zamor and Tesla as they both get by the other Mercedes of Buku, who's going backwards, and Buku being overtaken by Ray. So the top 10 drivers are cars being controlled by the humans. So So Bratti still in the lead, but only half a second clear of Bratti. Mr. BT posting a new fastest lap as well on the mediums. It won't be too long before he comes back into sync with the rest of the field with the way he's setting the lap times. It could well be that he'll go on to a set of softs on the last stint, but he needs to start, putting in some laps and try not to get time penalties as well, as they do come costly on this track.
Yeah, especially at that second corner. I know many times in lobbies I've got penalties from going over that second corner curve as Ray has left the session. I believe he probably just lagged out, but I'm keeping tabs on the front battle just like I was at Suzuka, and Bratti just seems to be quick in all the places he needs to be just to cover off Learcat, so he can't really get too close to make a move into any of the corners.
So just looking at his
As I say that, he disconnected, I think. I think Bratti's disconnected because he's ghosted and his car, I don't believe, has been controlled by him.
No, and he's been overtaken by Learcat now as well, so I do hope that Bratti can get back in. That's such a shame. This is the annoying part of the game, where the game can sometimes lag or disconnect and your car just ends up being controlled at a slower speed by the AI. There is a setting where you can actually set the AI to a certain... Well, you can set it to whatever...
He's joined back now, I believe.
Yeah, he's joined back
left again.
That's a real shame, and this is allowing Genu to go up to second and Runwatik up to third place. So Bratti continuing to go backwards. We do hope he rejoins the session as soon as he can, really. So Genu goes past, Runwatik goes past, Cross Nation goes past, Ismuriel will go past as well, as does Brian, who's looking to end his season on a high by going up into 6th place now in the AlphaTauri. Tesla, who's been called in as a last-minute reserve, doing a fine job from the back of the grid in what will be 7th position.
Yeah, I was going to add that there is a setting, but you already mentioned it for the AI set, but we don't want it to be overly unfair because sometimes the AI are a bit OP at certain tracks and even the best drivers can't really keep up with them.
So there's Runwatik in 4th place behind Cross Nation. I think Cross Nation actually got past Runwatik on the straight at the end of the lap. So Cross Nation getting the move done nicely. As you can see, Tesla passing Bratti now, whose car is still controlled by the AI. There's Zamor, who's kept his car out of trouble as well. There's Buku, who is chasing after Ray, but Buku's car is controlled by the AI as well, so it won't be too long before Mr. BT gets on the tail of those two.
Runwatik has been overtaken by Ismail. I did see the move. It was into the old Hamilton. No, it wasn't. It was after the first sector. Their little hairpin there. But yeah, he just seemed to send it up the inside and got past pretty easily.
Here's Brian looking to overtake Runwatik for 5th position, as Ismail goes after Cross Nation for 3rd place. Can Genu close in on Learcat actually? Because Genu has missed out on some really good results actually. He basically just kept spinning the car too much and falling to the back of the field and not finishing races as high as he should be. He did join after round 4, so imagine if he actually picked up as good results as he has done. He has picked up a couple of 2nd place finishes in Austria and Belgium, and this is an opportunity for him to close in. He is closing in actually on Learcat. The gap is now 1.9 seconds. The gap was about 2.2 or 2.3, and Genu is beginning to close in on Learcat.
Bratti is starting to make progress back. I think his connection is holding for now, but it reminds me a bit of 2007 Hamilton having a bit of a gearbox issue, I believe it was, but obviously it's not going to lose him the title because he's already run it. I think Learcat is just pacing himself at the moment because he seems to just in the last few races control them and just like be in. I can't get my words out, sorry, but he usually has the pace to keep everyone behind while conserving his tyres and maybe going a bit longer.
And this is allowing the likes of Brian to close in actually as well. And I think Learcat will be fine holding these drivers off as long as they can. I mean, the undercut is obviously a powerful tactic, let's say, here at Interlagos, like it is on a lot of other racetracks. But the amount of time you can gain over the course of a single lap is quite a lot, actually. So, obviously, a good outlap, a good exit from the pit lane, because the pit lane is rather... The pit exit is rather tricky here at Interlagos. So you want to make sure you don't go too fast out of the pits. Otherwise, you could end up doing, almost a David Coulthard of 1995 at Adelaide, or Lewis Hamilton in 2007 in China. Not that I need to mention that too much to Lewis Hamilton fans. But...
Me being one of them.
Yeah, well, it is still painful to this day looking back on that. Brian's overtaken Ramnitic for 5th position, so he's continuing on his charge. He has finished as high as 4th in a race this season. Can he look?
And he's on the mediums, and he's making pretty good progress. So if he can keep this pace up on the mediums and obviously get the benefit of the softs, I reckon he could be very quick towards the end.
So he's taking his time very nicely, actually, conserving his tyres for when he can attack. The leaders who have started on the soft compound will be thinking about pitting in very, very soon. Brian can just think about looking after his mediums and going longer. Now, the next car behind him, who is also on the mediums, is Tesla in the Mercedes, who's in 7th position behind Ramnitic. So Tesla will be thinking about making a move on the McLaren anytime soon. And Ramnitic not getting the exit from turn 11 as he needed to have done. So he'll be looking to get into the slipstream of the McLaren before opening the DRS and then making a move, which I think he's going to do so on this occasion. Goes to the inside of turn 14, and that's the Mercedes through. And someone has spun. It's Pastor. Yeah, Pastor has damaged his front wing in the Red Bull again, and his chances of points are very much gone out of the window now. He'll probably be coming into the pits, and given where he is in the race and his chances of points, he may well decide to call it quits. Zamor getting his 2nd time penalty of the race. That takes his total to 6 seconds. That could well cost him a points finish by the end of this one.
Yeah, I've noticed that there hasn't been as many penalties because there's only really one like place you see cutting take place, and that is of course turn 2, because you turn in a bit early and you go over the curb and the game just invalidates you. But of course there's other spots you can do it, like on the exit of turn 12, I believe, where you just use a bit too much of the track. I remember the old F1 2010 time trial line where you go up right to the wall and get a rocket ship exit.
Is Muriel right on the tail of Cross Nation as well for 3rd position? Is he going to use the DRS on this occasion? Just see that Pastor has come back out of the pits. He's still on the lead lap, actually, as Learcat comes through turn 2 now. So, should we get a safety car, actually, Pastor would still be on the lead lap, and he'll be on fresher tyres than Learcat. So, there's every opportunity that he can hope for a safety car, actually, and then the field will bunch right back up together.
I think Bratti will be the one hoping for a safety car, because obviously he did have the pace to stick with Learcat, and obviously... no, he was the one in the lead, actually. He had the pace to just keep him at bay, and obviously because of his connection it's taken it away from him, which is very cruel, but he will be hoping that so he can have a bit of damage limitation.
And Tesla's got past Brian now, which is crucial, actually, because they both started on the medium compound. So Tesla, in fact, is going to be the one leading the field once those who have started on the softs come in for what looks to be their only stop of the race. We are expecting 1 stops, but some drivers may decide to go for a double, maybe for a 2 stop strategy or something. And we've got one of the Ferraris in the pits, that is Muriel. He'll be looking to go to the end of the race on these mini compound. Yeah, Pastor getting a time penalty for track limits. That just makes his day even worse as well. Mr. BT is coming up to the last kink before the pit strip, I think, is Muriel is going to go ahead of him.
Yeah, Mr. BT obviously had the damage earlier, but he seems to have a decent pace on the mediums. Obviously, they won't be wearing out as quickly as the softs, and this is where the medium runners will take a little bit of, well, not advantage, because the tyres aren't getting any quicker, it's just the soft tyres that are getting slower, of course. But yeah, it could come into the hands of those medium runners if they're on the softs near the end.
The good news for Ismail is that he's come out in some clean air, actually. So if he can put in some fast laps, he may be able to complete the undercut on a few drivers, if not one. It'll be depending on when Leakat, Genu and Cross Nation decide to pit in. Now, are any of them pitting at the end of this lap? Not the top two. Is Cross Nation decided to go for it? No, he stays out for another lap. So can Ismail take advantage by putting in some fast laps? He's just seen that Pastor posted a new fastest lap, actually. So he's clearly setting some strong pace. He is on the soft compound, actually. That could well explain it. Flash getting ahead of you.
Within DRS of Leakat.
Yeah, but not able to make any form of move on that occasion. So he sits in behind the Williams. Cross Nation in third place ahead of Tesla, who's just under a couple of seconds adrift of the Renault. So he'll be thinking about when to close in. He doesn't need to push too hard, actually. He wants to save his tyres for as long as he can before he pits in for the soft compound, which I think will play into his hands towards the end of the race. And of course, he won't want to be getting time penalties on his way to achieving.
If I were Genu, I would I'd undercut Leakat right here, because you haven't really got much to lose here, because you're you should really do the opposite to whatever Leakat is doing. But I'd like to add to what I was saying earlier about the medium tyre runners, as I think Leakat tried to bait him out there, but I think it's easier for the medium tyre runners to actually, well, those who started on the medium tyres, to actually keep their pace on the mediums, because they'll be in DRS and they'll be able to just keep them a bit closer for a bit longer time to the leaders on the softs. As I think, Leakat even a little bit to defend, but I think, yeah, those. Once the field opens up, those who go onto the mediums won't have the advantage of having DRS as well.
And Brati's been disconnected as well, so he will need to try and get back into the lobby as soon as possible. His car is once again being controlled by the AI, and we've seen that Pastor has just posted another new fastest lap, actually, so he's very much finding some pace in the Rebel. He is behind his teammate Pellegrini in the battle for 13th position. I think with DRS, Pastor should get past his teammate without any issue. Rear wing open, this should be a change of position, and he goes through.
Genu is very close to Leakat now, going on to the front straight, but he pits.
Yeah, they're both pitting together, actually. And they're both slowed down in time, actually, as well, as does Cross Nation. So Tesla takes the lead of the Brazilian Grand Prix. Brian goes up to second place, and we should see Zamor go through into third. So two AlphaTauris in the top three, but they have yet to make their mandatory pit stops. Leakat out on his way, ahead of Genu, with Cross Nation behind in third. Brati also in the pits for Racing Point. He goes on to set up the hard compound, actually. So I don't know if that was a decision made by the AI, actually, as Runmatic goes through into what is on track 9th place. But they're both behind Mr. BT now. So Mr. BT was able to undercut them, but will he be pitting in again before this race is over?
Yeah, indeed. I'm looking at Leakat and Genu, and I think it's Ismail who's in between those two, so it hasn't really played out well for Genu, because if he wants to attack Leakat, he'll have to get past Ismail. He's on the same tyres as the both of them.
He is, and Ismail's gamble to pit in earlier has paid off. He's managed to complete the undercut on Genu and Cross Nation to put his Ferrari up what is effectively second place. And I think it will depend on how Tesla, Brian and Samor's tyres can go the distance. I think it's more likely that Tesla and Brian will be in contention for a podium once they do come in for their change to the soft compound, which will give them more grip towards the end of the race. Possibly go for the fastest lap as well, let's not forget that, as Samor actually comes into the pits. Now I can imagine he'll go onto the hard compound to go to the end of the race, on which he will do. So that puts Leakat, Ismail and Genu up to 3rd, 4th and 5th places. Samor will come out outside the top 10, but at least he can still be in the frame for some points by the end of this race. There's Brian all over the back, actually, of what is actually Buku, who him and Tesla lap. So they both go through without any issue. And they've got no other drivers who could potentially hold them up. So it's very much down to whether they can find enough pace. They will rejoin behind the Leakat, Ismail and Genu battle. But what I was going to say, actually, if these guys actually start battling, that's going to play into the hands of Tesla and Brian for when they come back out on the soft compound.
Yeah, indeed. I think Israel is actually surprising me with his pace, considering he wasn't really in the fight beforehand. Obviously, he's pulled out the undercut out of nowhere. But yeah, he's within 8 tenths, so I don't think he will be under threat from Geno on this lap specifically, because he'll need. But if he wants to stay safe, he'll have to obviously stay within DRS range of Leocat ahead.
Israel outbraking himself into turn 1, trying to take maybe a slightly different line to what Leocat is doing to try and get out of the turbulent air. But he's going to have the Alfa Romeo of Geno all over the back of them as they come down to the Cielo Largo. And the Ferrari stays ahead. Geno will be looking, I think his best opportunity is maybe going to be around the second sector, because whilst Geno may have DRS, Ismail is going to have DRS as well, because he's within a second of Leocat.
Yeah, I think Leocat might be telegraphing this a bit, because he knows he's got the pace to conserve his tyres and still be quite quick. And I think he's just trying not to pull away, but just trying to be safe and not make any mistakes, be a bit cautious. But he doesn't want to obviously put himself at risk with the other two behind him.
It almost looks like that Tesla was going to go into the pit lane there, but I think he's trying to take the shorter route to the line as possible, try and gain as much time as possible with the clear track he's got in front. The next man in front of him on the road is the Red Bull of Pellegrino, but he's only just coming into turn 4 now. You can just see there in the foreground on your screen. But Tesla doesn't need to worry about him at this moment of time. Ismail is pulling by, and now Tesla's got a time penalty of 3 seconds. That will go to his time at the end of the race, which would allow Brian go up a position as it stands. But there's still some way to go yet, as we are now into the second half of this season finale of Division 4 in the United Racing League.
It hasn't been an action-packed one so far. There's a yellow flag.
Yeah, and Pastor has binned it out in the Red Bull, and he's lost it somehow. The front suspension's broken, and we've got a virtual safety car. Now, what will this mean for the leaders? Actually,
Tesla on the track, Brian B. Yeah, that's what I was about to. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I spoke a little bit too soon there, because this plays massively into the hands of the front two, who, I think undoubtedly will come into the pits here.
Well, Tesla decides not to. But what about Brian? Brian does pit.
Yeah.
So does Brian go onto the hard compound? Oh, he's gone in too quick. He's gone in too quick. Yeah, that's really costly for Brian, I'm afraid. And the race has got back on the way, so I'm not sure if he's going to actually gain that much time by taking the opportunity to pit there. And Pastor's season ends in the barriers. The third retirement of this race. We are down to 14 runners. Brian rejoins.
Right behind Leocat, sorry to cut you off, but he's going for it.
Ismail down the inside of Leocat into turn 4 to see the Largo, and Ismail gets back, it goes up into second place on the road, which will be effectively the race lead. But remember, he has got that time penalty, which will go to his time at the end of the Grand Prix.
Maybe that's why he went for it. He just wants to try maybe pull out a gap so he is secure in that position. But Leocat now has to be wary of Jenny behind, because he will have the protection of DRS if he can stay close to Israel as they lap a ghosted back marker. I think that was coming for a few laps, because Israel was really just stalking Leocat there, but Leocat does have an opportunity to get him back here, as he's using a lot of his ERS on this straight.
So Leocat using the DRS now as he approaches Ismail. Ismail will go defensive, goes to the outside, does Leocat, into the centre S. He will come out in front on his equation. There's a bit of argy-bargy as they come into the centre S, and Leocat gets back through again, and he's into second place again. But remember, as I was saying earlier, the more they battle, the more it will play into Tesla's hands for when he comes in for his start.
Yeah, this is exactly what Tesla wants, but I don't see the reason why he didn't pit under the virtual safety car. It would have gained him so much more time in general, but maybe he's just concerned about taking those tyres, and maybe he's going for the soft tyres at the end.
Not to mention Tesla has that time penalty. I don't think he would have actually gained that much time, to be honest with you, Tommy, because the virtual safety car ended as Tesla had gone past the start-finish line and whilst Brian was in the pits. So I think Tesla gaining that amount of time would have been very, very minimal. But the gap at the moment is 14.
I think Brian B has gone into the hards, which he has.
Yeah.
So I think Tesla might want to do something different and go onto the softs, and that's why he's going so long.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. I think he's going to take the tyres at least 24 laps on before he comes in for his stop. Or what he could do is stay out for as long as he can in case there's a safety car. If there's a safety car, it'll play into his hands.
Leocat is going defensive as Ismail is going for it again in the same place, but this time on the outside, and he's got him before the corner even has come.
Yeah, and he's back into what is effectively the race lead. Leocat behind him in second place, but it's going to be a game of musical chairs, isn't it? It's just who's going to lead this queue of cars lap by lap. And Flash coming into the pits for his second pit stop of the race. He's probably going to go into a set of softs that'll take him to the end. And he's a long way ahead of Pellegrini.
A kart race here with everyone leading lap after lap. But as we've seen with Leocat, he's actually been in this position before. Last time out in Suzuki, he was just telegraphing it with Sassy Pickle, even though Sassy Pickle obviously did have a penalty, but so does Ismail. So if Ismail wants to have any chance of winning this, he needs to pull out of a gap, pull out a gap over Leocat.
And Tesla into the pits for his stop now, so he'll be looking to rejoin some clean air, actually. Yeah, and there's a battle between Genu and Leocat for what is now second place. Genu can't make the move stick, and so he has to sit in behind Leocat as Tesla rejoins behind Cross Nation. Can he get out in front of Mr. BT? I think he can, you know. Yes, he has. So Tesla rejoins ahead of the Williams of Mr. BT.
Yeah, indeed. So that's... And he is on the soft tyre.
Yeah, and he's going to be able to pull away now, so he's going to be on the better tyres at this point than the leaders. So if he's going to win this race, he needs to get by these guys as soon as he can. And with that time penalty coming his way, he's got to go like clockwork now, hasn't he?
Yeah, and those tyres did seem to last, what was it? What lap did they pit? Lap 15, 16? So those tyres will last the end, I do believe. Maybe they might drop off with a few laps to go, but he should have a massive pace advantage, and I would expect to see a few fastest laps coming his way.
Over the course of the next few laps, I would imagine, as Leocat with DRS closes on Ismail again as they come into turn 1 as they begin lap 24.
This is already on the back of Crusty Nation.
Yeah, and Mr. BT coming in for his second stop now in the Williams. He's going to go onto a set of soft tyres, which will take him to the end of the race. He may have some clear track ahead of him and try and go for the fastest lap. And Tesla going to the inside of Cross Nation to go up into 4th position. So clearly getting those tyres into temperature, into their optimal window. And Tesla has got 2.5 seconds to make up on Genu in front, which I'm sure he'll close in very, very easily, actually. Ismail's tyres are 3 laps older than Leocat and Genu's, remember. So I think for Tesla to win this race, he's got to hope that, as well as getting by these guys, he's got to hope that Ismail is going to be the one ahead of the queue to help Tesla win the race, essentially.
Indeed. I think, but he is already closing up on them at a significant rate. So I would expect him at the moment, if he can keep this pace up, to be one of the favourites.
1.5 seconds is the gap now between Genu and Tesla, so there's no doubt that Tesla's gaining so much time on this lap alone. And he posts the new fastest up. It's a 1:08.3.
It was Pellegrini, actually.
Well, Pellegrini, actually. I think Tesla posted a 1:08.5. I think Pellegrini's just getting out of the way of cars, hence why there was a yellow flag. He was well out of points, actually, is Pellegrini. It's been a very hard race for him, actually. He did qualify very high up, and then he had that collision with Mr. BT in the opening stages. But back to the battle for the leaders. Leocat tries to go to the outside, trying somewhere different, actually, to get the move done, but couldn't quite make the move stick.
Yeah, Genu is just shadowing these two. I think he just wants to take advantage in case these two come together. But I look at Tesla, he's already on the back of them.
And Tesla already behind Genu now as the leaders come through. Turns 12 and then 13, which is where Yonsao is. And Leocat will be looking to try and get past Ismail again. Now, I think, to be fair, Leocat doesn't actually need to pass Ismail on the road. He needs to just stay in front of Genu.
Yeah, and Genu is under threat from Tesla right now. Will he go for it straight away? I think he's going to have to, because Genu glitching out there a bit, and Genu looks up, maybe getting a tiny bit of tyre wear now, but I don't think it'd be much at after not only line naps on those tyres.
Um,
But Paraguay has retired. I think Tesla isn't getting past as quickly as he needs to if he's going to pull out that 3-second gap that he needs.
Yeah, he's pushing ever so hard. Mr. B posted a new fastest lap now, actually, 1 minute 8.2. He's in 10th place at the moment, so he would be eligible to get that point, as well as the championship point for finishing in 10th. But he hasn't got a time penalty to his name, unlike a few of those ahead of him, so he could benefit from those, with the misfortunes going against them. As Tesla continues to wheel down Geno, the sooner he gets in front. Oh, and Geno makes a mistake!
Oh!
So Geno made a mistake on the...
Got a bit too aggressive on the accelerator. I think Tesla also did, but he managed to catch it because of the fresher tyres. But yeah, how much time has that lost Geno? It's lost him about, I'd say, 10 car lengths.
Yeah, he's still using DRS though, actually, as Geno to help close back in. But we've got Learcat all over the back of Ismail. They're nearly touched, actually, as they come into the centre S. Now, Tesla's got to play this one smart, because if these two start fighting over each other, he doesn't want to get too close to them. He knows he's the quicker man than these guys. Learcat going to the inside, but has to slot back in behind the Ferraris. He knows that he wasn't going to be able to pull that move off.
Yeah, I think Tesla just needs to maybe take his time a little bit, but not obviously too much, so he has enough time to make moves. But he didn't get past Geno, through outright pace. He got past him because Geno made a mistake. So I wouldn't expect him to be overly aggressive just because he doesn't want to ruin his race by, sliding into one of them.
What a brilliant finish to the season we're having here in Brazil. Tesla all over the back of Learcat and Ismail. The top four separated by less than 2 seconds. Incredible battle. I mean, there's a couple of them have got time penalties, but still, we're seeing some brilliant on-track action as Learcat goes to the outside again on Ismail into the centre S. Who's going to break the later of the two? It looks like Ismail has the edge, and Learcat has to stop back in behind, but he's got to be careful because he's got the Mercedes of Tesla going to the outside. Tesla's going to have the DRS as well as Learcat as they come into the back straight, which takes us to Descida de Largo. And I think Learcat is going to go to the outside. Is he through to the lead here? The bang wheels, and Learcat is through to the lead now. So Learcat is in front, and also Tesla goes to the inside of the Ferrari, but has to tuck back in again. And Ismail trying to fight back on Learcat as they go into what looks like turn 7, but can't quite make the move stick. But what a move by Learcat as they got into turn 4. Brilliant move though from the Williams. And
I
Tesla
thought he had the overspeed around the outside.
But he goes to the inside, look here into turn 11.
Inside.
Tesla can't quite make the move stick as now the Ferrari holds him off into turn 12. I think Tesla's going to wait until they get to the start-finish straight to have a go on the Ferrari. The sooner he gets in front of him, the better, because he also needs to get by Learcat if he wants to win this race.
Indeed, indeed. I think Tesla's going to get Ismail here. He's not close enough to get the slipstream effect fully from Learcat here, but he does seem to have it on the brakes. But I think Tesla will have more grip around the outside. A little bit of contact, and Tesla gets it.
What a move from Tesla down the outside into the centre S. He did that move brilliantly. He's got the benefit of the DRS because he's still behind Learcat as well. So Learcat will be watching his mirrors as Tesla continues to power his way through the field. As it stands with his time penalty, he would actually drop to 6th place. So he needs to get by Learcat to try and minimise the damage with that time penalty he's got right now.
Yeah, I think Learcat might be able to hold on to the back of him now because of his tyres. But Ismail also has a penalty, mind you, so that was 4 position.
It was most certainly 4 position, but Tesla fancies winning this race, actually. So now, if you remember, he actually started at the back of the grid, did Tesla. So he's done very well to fight his way up the front. You can just see Geno trying to make a move on Ismail, actually. And this is actually helping Tesla as well as he gets into the slipstream. He's not under threat now from Ismail, the Mercedes driver, but he's going to use the DRS to try and get in front of Learcat. Which way is he going to go? He's going to go to the outside like he did so before. I think he's going to pull off a similar move to what he did so a lot before on Ismail. Goes to the outside, and he takes the lead of the Grand Prix. Fantastic stuff from Tesla. Brilliant, brilliant stuff there from the Mercedes driver. He gets in front of the Williams, although Learcat is going to have DRS on the back straight before Descida de Largo. But he has to hold position. Geno actually got past Ismail for what is now 3rd. Bratti also following suit.
Bratti, this is a 6-way battle here, if you look. well, no, maybe not for the lead, but there are 6 cars very close to each other on track. Now, Tesla just has to pull out a gap. He needs to break that 1 second and then break a further 2 off to get to that 3-second gap. I don't think he has the pace now in the tyres, so he'll really have to push, but obviously not too much to just put it in a wall.
He is now 8 tenths clear. He wants to pull out a little bit more, make that 9 tenths actually. I think the detection point is not until where he's going through now actually. So Leclerc is going to still have the benefit of the DRS, but if Tesla can start finding time in the corners, that's going to help him.
Indeed, indeed. I think, well, he just had so much more grip on those tyres on both times he went around the outside, which obviously switched the inside and turned to his murals down to 6 as Crusty Nation gets past. This is really turning into the action-packed race that I said it wasn't earlier.
So, I think Ismail's coming back actually on Cross Nation. Cross Nation putting off a brilliant move into the Sunrise, but the touch coming into the Cedar Largo. And Cross Nation just manages to keep on the 5th place, but Ismail is going to be coming back for more here. And I think as it stands for Ismail, he would keep hold of 6th place because Ramatic is over 5 seconds behind him.
Yeah. This is very close as Brati's got himself back into the fight. Remember, he was leading earlier, but unfortunately disconnected. So this isn't over for any. If there's an incident, any of the top 6 could win this, as Ray gets a time penalty. But obviously that isn't going to change the outcome of this race too much.
8 tenths is the gap between Tesla and Leclerc. So it's not enough actually for Tesla to break that DRS window. He needs to pull out another a couple of tenths. We'll make that a little bit more actually because
Brati and Genu.
Oh, and I thought Brati had gone off there. That would have just been a lag actually. So I should have just conserved my energy for a moment there. But Brati will be back for more on Genu as they come onto the back straight. DRS open on the racing point. Which way is he going to go? Genu needs to go defensive here. Brati going to the inside. Gets on the curves. But the Alfa Romeo keeps his nose in front. Very nice defensive driving actually from Genu. But Leclerc just staying in touch actually with Tesla as the laps continue to wind down. Tesla just needs to start getting the hammer down out of the corners.
Yeah, I think obviously the DRS is also benefiting Leclerc significantly, as the straights here are quite long and the slipstream is quite powerful. So he is keeping within that slipstream range that is quite powerful, even though there is a second gap now. So as Mr. BT gets a penalty and Brati has just gone off the track. But yeah, it's not over yet, and there's a yellow flag. It's a Ferrari.
It's Muriel who's gone for a spin. He's fallen behind Ramatic, and Brian's going to get past him as well. They're both bang wheels actually, but Brian should get through on this occasion. He is on the better tyres at this point than the Ferrari. It's Muriel continuing to go backwards now after leading the race earlier on.
Yeah, Tesla has broken that gap yet again, but I don't think he'll. At this rate, he isn't gonna. Genu around the outside of Brati, but Brati defends nicely. But yeah, I don't think Tesla is going to pull out that gap at this rate.
And in fact, I tell you what, if Brati wins this race, it'd be a fantastic recovery. I don't think he's going to have enough time to do it, but he could actually finish in front of Tesla unless Tesla can pull out a 3-second margin on him. At the moment, it's 1.1 seconds over Leclerc and 3.6 or 3.7 on Brati. So Tesla not only does he need to watch Leclerc, but he also needs to watch Brati as well.
Yeah, and Geno, I think, just made a little mistake. Let's just allow Brati to go up the road, so they won't be fighting anymore, so Brati can unleash his true pace now.
So we've still got a battle for the final podium spot here between Brati and Genu, but Genu is too far back to have
disconnected once again though.
Has he? No, that'll be that's the other racing point of Ray, who's a lap down actually. The reason why he's a ghosted because he's Brati's made a mistake. Brati's made a mistake into turn 1. He's lost the position. No, he's not disconnected. That will be the other racing point of Ray, who's a lap down. So he's not. Well, Ray's not actually disconnected because once he's been lapped by the leaders. Oh no, Brati's off
disconnected. Yeah, it was Brati. Well, Ray has. They both seem to have been trouble with connection issues, but yeah, I did spot it there.
Yeah, I hope there'll be an improvement for the next Codemasters game in terms of the connection system, or whether drivers just need to find a better internet access or something. But hopefully we won't have too many issues like this in the next season of the United Racing League, as Tesla coming around to complete lap 34, going a bit wide on the exit of Yonsao. The gap is 1.5 seconds between himself and Learcat. I think Learcat's tyres will be in its window now to actually pounce on Tesla, but all he needs to do is just stay within 3 seconds of the Mercedes.
I think Tesla is obviously at risk of getting more penalties because he will be pushing harder to try and break that gap. I think he was very far from the apex in turn 2 because I'm on board with Learcat. Maybe just trying to avoid where he most likely got the penalty in the first place.
And looking at Ray's pace, actually, he's just on laps, Genu. He's on soft tyres, actually. So Ray will be looking to try and get back on the lead lap or post the fastest lap of the race. He is inside the top 10 as it stands, so he would get that championship point.
Rati's down to 12, sorry. He hasn't gone well for him. And I think Learcat is keeping within that range, so I do believe he will be the eventual victor of this race, but you know, anything could happen within this last lap and a bit.
So Tesla, as it stands, would not keep the race victory. Learcat will be on course for his 3rd victory in 4 races. He's already guaranteed himself 2nd place in the championship before the race started, but it would most certainly close in a lot actually on Bratti as the season finishes. Where will he be in terms of division for the next season of the United Racing League? We are now on the last lap of this Division 4 season, and what a brilliant race it's been to round it off. And we had 6 drivers in contention potentially for the race win. Tesla's out in the lead on the road, but as it stands, it's Learcat who'll be taking the victory unless the Mercedes can play another 1.8 seconds, or if Learcat decides to make a mistake, which is unlike Learcat at this point. And what season it's been, Tommy?
I was only here for the last 4 or 5 races, but from what I've seen, I can't wait for the next one.
Absolutely. So Tesla just coming through turns 10 and 11. He's not pulling out enough on Learcat in order to put himself in contention for the race victory. But what a brilliant drive it's been from the back of grid from him, nevertheless. Had he not had that penalty, he'd have been most certainly taking the victory here today. But he's coming round Yonsao now, and the last couple of left kinks to take victory here in Brazil. Tesla crosses the line, but it's Learcat who takes the Brazilian Grand Prix victory at Interlagos. Learcat wins the final race of the season in Division 4 in the United Racing League. Tesla drops to 2nd with the time penalty. Genu will be on the podium for Alfa Romeo with Cross Nation 4th. Ramnitic in a brilliant 5th place and hitting the barrier ahead of Brian B. Brian B's time penalty will drop him down quite significantly, actually, as Ismailits ended up in the barrier by the end of the race. We didn't quite see the final race positions through all that because a few of the drivers got time penalties in all that. I think the top 9 finished on the lead lap, so it could well be that Brian B has finished in 6th place. If that's so, he could well have finished 4th place in the Drivers' Championship, but we'll find out in a moment. Meanwhile, the drivers are out on the podium. Learcat, what a brilliant end to the season he has had. In the top 3 in the last 4 races. And with that, that guarantees him 2nd place in the Division 4 Championship. Alaquendi will be 3rd, ahead of what looks like Genu, actually. I wonder if Genu has got ahead of Brian B through all that, but we'll find out when we look at the results. Final classification of the Brazilian Grand Prix. Learcat, your race winner. Tesla, 2nd from the back of the grid. Excellent drive from him. Genu, 3rd, ahead of Cross Nation in 4th. Romantic ahead of Brian B. Ismuriel in 7th place, ahead of Mr. BT in 8th. Samor, the last of the drivers, on the lead lap in 9th. Flash taking the final point in 10th place. Mr. BT also getting the fastest lap point. Ray was 11th, ahead of Bratti. Buki was 13th. Pellegrini retired, as did Pastor, Nathan and Liam. And as it stands in the championship, Brian's points was enough to see him finish above Kowalski into 4th place. Genu will be 5th with Cross Nation, I believe, in 6th place. Although I could well be mistaken. No, I think it's Kowalski who finished ahead of Cross Nation. So that's how it's ended up. So Bratti in the race championship winning position. Learcat 2nd, Alaquendi 3rd, Brian 4th, Genu 5th, Kowalski 6th, Cross Nation 7th. That's my maths anyway, Tommy. Your last thoughts on what's been a brilliant season finale at Interlagos?
It was brilliant to watch and also fun to commentate with you. I enjoyed it.
I've enjoyed it with you as well, and it's been a brilliant watching and commentating these last half of the season for me. I'm sure it's been a brilliant few races, a few commentators alongside me as well, Tommy. It's been absolutely fantastic. Well, that's all for Division 4 here today and for this season. Congratulations on Bratti in the Racing Point on becoming champion. Where will he be by the time F1 2021 does get on the way for when the United Racing League does switch over to that from F1 2020? Tommy, thank you for joining me in the comms box. It's been once again a huge privilege of you joining me for this season, and I can't wait to do it all over again next time around for when F1 2021 does come around as it does. Thank you for joining us over the course of the season. We've enjoyed it as much as you have, and we can't wait to do it all over again next time F1 2021 does begin. I'm Tom Cairns, he is Tommy, and we'll speak to you again soon when the United Racing League returns.